living nightmare. That's how Kenya's president has described the impacts of climate change for Africans at COP27.
Big obstacles like COVID and the war in Ukraine should not make us give up with our goals, the European Council President tells Euronews in Sharm el-Sheikh.
Voting is underway in the US midterm elections as the Republicans aim to take control of Congress back from Biden's Democrats.
Qatar World Cup official comes under fire after making disparaging comments against the LGBTQ+ community on German TV.
Another climate summit dominated by calls from developing countries for rich polluters to pay for the harm their emissions are causing. At COP27's 5-minute address, several leaders said the crushing impacts of climate change were already a living nightmare for many, mainly in the southern half of the globe.
Africa contributes less than 3% of the pollution responsible for climate change, but is most severely impacted by the ensuing crisis. Africa, and it is therefore only fair and proper that this conference takes necessary measures to recognize Africa's special needs and circumstances.
The Prime Minister of Barbados, a country increasingly hit by weather extremes, was one of many leaders to slam industrialised nations for failing the developing world. Mia Mottley also cited a lack of help from rich nations in helping others transition to climate-friendly technology.
Our ability to access electric cars or our ability to access batteries or photovoltaic panels are constrained by those countries that have the dominant presence and can produce for themselves, but the global south remains at the mercy of the global north on these issues.
Wealthy countries had previously pledged $100 billion a year from 2020 to developing nations to help them build resilience and greener economies. But the UN says so far it's only reached $83 billion.
The President of the European Council has called on the United States to respect its climate engagements. Speaking to Euronews during the COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Charles Michel said no country, even a big economic and military powerhouse, could face the current challenges alone.
I believe that the European Union is doing its part, and I call on the United States and Al Gore to also do its part. If I take the example of the 100 billion euros which were promised a long time ago to developing countries, the European Union fully assumes its part with the member states. We see well that there is disappointment because developing countries do not have enough support, and I call on the rich countries outside of the European Union to mobilize.
What do you expect from this COP? How should it end?
Despite the difficulties, we are emerging from a COVID crisis, which has affected us, shaken us. There is now a war unleashed by Russia. These are big obstacles, but that shouldn't make us give up. On the contrary, it should make us redouble our efforts. We have to roll up our sleeves. We understand that the European Union strongly believes in the international cooperation, the will to build solutions together. This is the path. There is no country alone, even the most powerful military, even the most economically powerful, who can solve this challenge, which is the challenge of our generation.
The Prime Minister of Barbados wants to tax the profit of gas and oil companies to fight climate change. Is this a proposal that the EU could support?
There are countries today that are extremely helpful in securing Europe's energy supply, but these countries at the same time have extremely large revenues generated by rising prices. I had the opportunity a few moments ago to be in contact with Norwegian officials, for example. The same goes for the United States. We have partners, friends, allies with whom we work well on the issue of supply, and it's a good thing. I also believe they should engage with the EU on the issue of prices, because it is in everyone's interest that we do not have a recession that is deep, that is serious, and that lasts a long time.
At polling stations across the US, in-person voting is underway in the congressional, governor and local elections that could see a major shift in the balance of power. The Republicans are vying to take back control of the House of Representatives and the Senate from the Democrats. All 435 seats in the House and 1/3 of the Senate are being contested.
So, are you ready to vote?
With the prospect of large-scale Republican gains, President Joe Biden was campaigning until the last minute to encourage Democrats to get out and vote. Losing either chamber could cripple his policy agenda for the remaining 2 years of his presidency. His predecessor has been whipping up support for Republican candidates, particularly those he has endorsed. Donald Trump has been heavily hinting that he'll run for the 2024 presidency, creating something of a sideshow. The results of today's elections will trickle in over the next few days.
Anger and despair aboard a migrant rescue ship docked at Catania in Sicily. The protest erupted over the Italian government's refusal to let those remaining on board disembark. The Geo Barents, carrying 572 migrants, arrived at the port on Sunday. Only families and those with medical problems were allowed to leave. It and another NGO vessel, the Humanity, have been ordered to leave Catania. Both are refusing to set sail amid a deepening standoff. Elsewhere, relief for migrants on a third ship, the Rise Above. After days of waiting off the Italian coast, all passengers were taken off.
This is chickenpox. We can't bathe her. It's been 10 days since we last bathed her. She can't eat. She only cries. Have mercy for this baby.
The newly installed government of Giorgia Meloni was elected on a promise of taking a hard line with migrant ships. They insist the countries whose flag the boats fly should take the passengers in, potentially putting them on a collision course with other European governments. As conditions deteriorate on ships waiting at sea, those on board can only wait and hope for a resolution.
Already steeped in controversy before kick-off, Qatar's World Cup is under renewed scrutiny over homophobic comments from a top official. They came from its ambassador for the event, Khalid Salman, a former national team player. In an interview with German TV, he said homosexuality was haram, forbidden in Arabic, because it was harmful to the mind.
For the World Cup, a lot of things will be coming here. Let's to say about the gay. The most important question here, everybody they will accept they come in here, but they will they have to accept our rules here. It's haram. Because why is haram? I am not one big Muslim, but it's haram. Why? Because it's damaging the mind.
The remarks have caused outrage in Germany and elsewhere. Germany's interior minister described the comment as terrible and said Qatar's prime minister had given her a security guarantee for LGBTQ fans.
That's why the security guarantee was so important to me. The prime minister gave it to me, and I have no new indications from him that anything has changed. Of course, such comments are awful, and that's also the reason why we're working to hopefully improve things in Qatar in the future.
FIFA, which awarded the tournament to Qatar, has not escaped the backlash. Dozens of people staged a protest outside the World Bodies Museum in the Swiss city of Zurich. Up to 1.2 million international visitors are expected in Qatar for the tournament, which kicks off on November 20th.
Families and friends of the 19 victims from a tragic plane crash in Tanzania have buried their loved ones. The mass funeral was attended by the country's Prime Minister, who later confirmed 26 people had survived the crash. The Precision Air flight plunged into Lake Victoria on Sunday. Police say the aircraft was flying at about 100 metres when it encountered problems and bad weather.
As Americans cast their vote in the midterms, the Wagner Group has admitted to interfering in previous US elections. The Russian private mercenary force has just opened its first headquarters in St. Petersburg. Its chief wrote on Russian social media that we have interfered, we are interfering, and we will continue to interfere. The group has played an active military role in Russia's war in Ukraine.